We are almost live. One moment, please. All right. President Tate, you are clear to go.
Okay, we will call our regular August board meeting to order. I'm going to call roll. Mr. Heffington.
Here.
Mr. Seal.
Here.
Mr. Hopper.
Here.
Okay, and I'm Mr. Tate. I'm present, and it's my understanding Mr. Beecham is not going to be on the call today. Therefore, we do have a quorum, and we will proceed. We'd like to recognize Mr. Newsom and tell him thank you for participating, and appreciate all the work he's done with the district. And we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. And what's the board's pleasure on the consent agenda?
So move that we approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, was that Mr. Hopper that moved?
It was Dan.
Dan, okay, Mr. Seal has moved, and Mr. Heffington has seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion at this time? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimous. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone that would like to participate in the public comment at this time?
We had no one registered to provide public comment.
Okay. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 5 on the agenda, presentation about the permit application workflow. And it's my understanding that Andreas is going to help us with that. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes, sir, it is. So just as a quick introduction, I know in the almost 7-year period now that I've worked with the district, we have made some revisions to the workflow, the incorporation of software platforms and some other equipment has increased our responsiveness to requests for permit applications. And in this year alone, we're already over 600, which have largely been filled by 3 field staff members. And yet the wait, if you will, is just within a day. So I'm very proud of their effort and the IT support that's been part of it. So that's one objective of the staff presentation. And the last thing is that several questions have come up during recent board meetings relating to some of the processes maybe that are employed here for tracking our permit application status. And so hopefully this will help address that. And in light of Juan's absence today, Andreas and Gray will go through some of the steps and are open for questions. So I hope this is informative.
Go ahead and begin.
Floor is yours.
Excellent. I'm going to go through this chronologically. Permit process always starts with a request from an applicant. Those come in on the phone or through walk-ins or through the email. Most of that's on the phone. At that time, we get a few bits of information from the applicant, whether or not they own the land, the name and address of the landowner if they're not the landowner, the legal description of the land so we know where to send the field tech. We create the document at that time and assign it to a field tech. Once it comes to the field tech, which is me or Vance or Ray, for the most part, we'll set up a time to meet the applicant in the field so they can discuss where they want their wells. At that point, we'll take a prospective spot, a point, and measure from that point to the surrounding wells, property lines, to make sure the proposed well is compliant with the spacing rules. And if everybody's happy at that point, we sign the permit with the applicant and he pays for it. At that point, we'll go over some things with the applicant, including the need for the logs to get back to us when the work is done, and the procedure that happens if those logs don't get back to us in a timely fashion. Once the permit is paid for and signed, it comes back through the office to get approved by Jason. It gets mailed out back to the applicant. Once it is approved, then at that point, we're waiting on the work to be done. I think it's 120 days out from the time the permit would expire. If we don't have both logs in, we'll start sending a postcard notification to the applicant that that's not done yet and that needs to be. They'll get a notification at 120, at 60, and at 30 days. At 30 days out, if we still don't have that stuff, we'll start making phone calls, find out what's going on, see if we can get this thing closed out before it expires. Once we do get those logs back, that permit will get reassigned to the field tech. He'll go out and get a finalized map point on that well. He'll make sure it's compliant with what was permitted. And if the well's running, we'll do a flow test on it and figure out how much it's producing. If not, we'll drop a tape down and get a depth of water measurement. At that point, if everything's copacetic, it'll go to get uploaded into the system for good, and we'll be done with it. That's about it. I was wondering if there's any questions.
I have one question. If somebody who is not the landowner, in other words, applies for the permit, do we send any
Yes, sir.
kind of notification to the landowner or contact the landowner in any way? I'm assuming we don't, but I was just curious.
No, sir, we don't.
Okay.
Just goes to the person that signed the application, right?
Yes, sir. They're the real focal point for us. They're the only real person we have any recourse with.
But that person signs that application saying they have the authority to sign it. So there is a
Yes,
little
sir.
recourse there.
By signing it, they're stating that they have the authority to put a well on that land.
Sure beats having to go out and measure it with a steel tape and stretch that thing
Technology
out.
involved is amazing, Dan.
It's a whole lot better than it used to be.
Measuring wheel.
Between the antenna and the M files, that's really what helps us stay so efficient with all this. It's because it's just,
How long have we been doing a flow test or a water level check on them? That's something that we didn't used to do, did we, Jason? Or
no, sir. We started that last fall. I want to say late October, early November, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I think that's a great idea.
That was actually a procedure that was recommended in some of our county advisory committee meetings relating to final checks at the well site. And based on that feedback, our field staff began obtaining that information. It's been close to a year.
Okay.
What information is that?
The flow test or the water
The
level?
depth of water.
So we're doing flow tests if they're running
Yes,
That
on
is
sir.
new
correct.
wells? Okay.
That is
I
correct.
didn't realize that.
I think that helps the landowner producer a lot because we don't ever really know if it's tied with 5 or 6 other wells, what it's producing. So I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
helpful.
Also tells us if they're in compliance with the spacing.
Yes, sir. I knew. That's another way. That's right, Dan. Anyone else have any other questions for Andreas or Jason with regards to permitting?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Andreas. We appreciate you.
Thank
Good
y'all.
job.
Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda is item 6, water well applications received for the month of July. Jason, I guess I'll let you or whoever on the staff you're wanting to do that proceed with this part.
Yes, sir. Those applications as submitted are compliant with the rules of the water district.
Okay.
I would
Anybody
make
have any questions?
a motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Hopper has moved and Mr. Heffington has seconded the motion to approve the water well permits are received for the month of July. Any discussion at this time?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
I have a
Dan.
question. Those in, Neff Smith County for the Dockham, are those, 4 wells, are they re-permitted or re-applied for at the same location that has been in the past?
Yes, sir, they are. I think this is the 4th time on those 4 wells. This is the 4th time. Yes, sir. The same 4 well sites have been permitted now. I think this is the 4th time.
And who is the landowner on those, Jason?
I believe it's D&J Dairy.
Okay.
High Noon. Yeah, yes, sir.
Are they gonna drill those?
No idea.
Haven't in, 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that?
Assuming each of the previous permits were extended for the full 240 days prior to re-permitting, then that's 720 days now that have passed without well being constructed at the respective locations.
You know, I've made this motion before and not get anything on it, but I would like to remove those 4 from the others and vote on them separately. I'd
So
like to make that,
is that a motion to amend the motion?
yes,
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? If not, the amendment fails for lack of a second. Any other discussion on the underlying motion to approve the water well permits? Okay. I'm just going to do a roll call so we'll know how everybody votes. Mr. Hopper,
I vote for.
Mr. Heffington,
4.
Mr. Seal,
no,
okay, and Mr. Tate is 4. Vote being 3-1, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is City of Wolfforth, Edwards Trinity Aquifer Test Well drilled. Jason and Mr. Newsom, will turn it over to you guys.
I just wanted to give a quick introduction. This is a result of recommendation from the Research and Demonstration Funding Committee in 2018 to fund this project, subsequently approved by the full board. And so the work was initiated in January of this year, and Mr. Newsom is providing the update relating to the expenditure of the funds and some of the results from the project. So I'm thankful for him participating today. Daryl.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the board having me on today. I wanted to volunteer to be able to come do this. I think it's important that when we work with you guys, you can see the effectiveness of the project and what we try to accomplish, and did we accomplish what we expected to when we filled out all the paperwork that we requested, the funding from the initial start. we were lucky enough to get cooperate with the district on our Dockham well. And I wish our results would have been better on that Dockham well than they were. I think we found some water, but it was really pretty tough to get to. And all in all, I think this was a much more successful project. And we approached it kind of in an unusual fashion. We Jason and I had looked at the location. And Victoria, I think you may have to turn my screen sharing on so I think if you're the host, so I can share my maps and so forth. But as you may or may not remember, we have a well field that's down between us and Ropesville. And in looking and reviewing the maps, that's good, Victoria, that worked. Let me get to the.
Did that work?
Yep, that worked. Yeah, so here's a little bit of a map. This showing Wolforth here, Ropesville down here, and our well farm is right at the end of where Woodrow Road dead ends, right at the edge of Hockley County. So we're right in that corner down there. And as you may remember, we've been dryland farming that particular farm for many years, for probably 30 years since it was purchased. And so Jason, in looking at those maps, kind of felt like and it showed a better presence of the Edwards Trinity High Plains. And so we felt like this would be a good opportunity to maybe do some investigation in that area. So our approach on it was kind of unusual in the way that we looked for our vendor and our helpers to do this. We established a scope of work for this project, and basically tried to talk more about what we wanted to accomplish and how we wanted to go about doing it, but kind of felt like we'd rely on the expertise of drillers in the field, and would try to take their input on that. So we received a couple of responses on our request for proposal, and within the budget that we were provided in working with the district, we didn't really know, how much, how deep, how many things we wanted to try, but we told in the RFP, we told the respondents that we wanted to try to at least investigate to a depth of around 400 feet what the Edwards Trinity results might be in that area. So at the well farm, and during the time that we were working on this, I want to mention that online watching with us on YouTube is Jared Wesley. He's our new city engineer, and Jared was really instrumental in helping compile and look at the results and working with the information that came on these requests for proposals. But kind of a long story short, we felt like one of the most responsive actually responses to the RFP was Silas Jones with Thunder Drilling, and his proposal was to drill 3 test holes on that site and spread those across this area that we're showing here on the map, from the pasture over here in the corner to a kind of a central location, and then a kind of more of a northeast type of location up on that particular in that particular area. And kind of zooming out here, now that you see the pasture area and then where we're at, that's a fairly central location between Wolforth and Ropes. So I clicked off of the map there, didn't I? So anyway, yeah, zooming. Let me get back in. So here's the farm, and then like I say, on the west side, kind of on the northeast side, and in a central location. I mean, we kind of spread across the farm to see what would happen there, and we based on the way that Silas responded to the proposals, that gave us the opportunity, if we just didn't have any luck at all, and we really didn't see what we were looking for, we could stop at the first well and kind of cut our losses and be able to have the opportunity to walk away from it. But we were a little slower than we wanted to be at in the process of starting the drilling. We had our farmer had a crop on that land, and we kind of waited till he got his crop out, and we started late in the year last year, but things moved pretty quickly in our process, and then Jason engaged USGS to come out and do the logging on all 3 sites. And so I'll see if I can go back to sharing and show you a little bit about the logs. Jason's probably a better narrator on the sites themselves than probably what I would be, but let you take a look at these, get them pulled up real quick. And so Jason, any inputs you got on here? Because you may give a better, more accurate technical description. But this is the logging down to a depth of about 350 feet. And just to kind of show the areas that I doubt y'all can read that from there. Anything from this first column of conductivity, potential, some gamma logging, different aspects in that in each area. I think this was on the furthest well to the west, I believe, but I'd like to kind of compare. Step out here and compare. The one good thing that we did see in comparison was very similar profiles in some of these areas, but fairly consistent between the three different wells, and so believe the results are promising. I think one of the things that impressed me the most in what USGS was able to provide us in some of that information was the mobile fluid volume is one of these things down in here. One of the criteria in that the local water and the mobile water that was in there. And Jason, do you want to kind of throw in a little bit more technical explanation of that and where we got some help on it?
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. So the 3 test wells that we're looking at are actually the first here that we're aware of where this NMR technology discussed last month at the board meeting with United Ag. But this example is the first application of that technology. So this is the first time we actually saw it. This was back in January, and the quantification of sediments that contain water is helpful, but knowing what component of that water is mobile or clay bound or in the capillary spaces is even more helpful. So in Daryl's screen sharing, you'll see that series of colors, both are all 3 blue, purple, and green. And that blue volume is the mobile fluid volume, which would drain by gravity and be captured in a well, for instance. And you see a very similar trend between the upper section, which would be the Ogallala section, and then in those lower sections that also tend to have a higher mobile fluid volume, it would be very similar quantifiably to the Ogallala section. So the other part of that is certainly of interest is that the thickness in the largely the sands of the Edwards Trinity near the bottom appears to be promising. So it's not just one real small interval that contains water and might be captured by a well, but it's a fairly good looking section. So between the NMR data and the associated gamma, there's some correlation, obviously, with the trends that are exhibited, indicating some sand is in those sections. It is, to a certain extent, mobile. One other thing that is interesting, I believe, and this will be available for closer inspection at our district web map. But the scale on the mobile fluid volume right in the middle of that bar is somewhere around 16%. And you may recall from various presentations, your experience in the water district over time, that we typically apply around 15% of the fluid volume is that which will drain by gravity in the Ogallala. And so in that Ogallala section above 190, you see that is a pretty good estimator. So we've seen some confirmation in some respects of more historical assumptions. And then we also see in the lower sections some promise in the ability for that area to be productive in this other aquifer.
So Jason, is the traditional, or Daryl, either one of you, is the traditional red bed about 190, 200? Or am I misconstruing that, or?
Yeah, so this in this example, it's going to be somewhere around that 185 probably. It looks like around 185. There's a deflection in that far left column, which would be the gamma, showing the bottom of the sand and gravel in the beginning of some shell units.
So is that like 50 foot of red bed, or what is that?
Yes.
Portion? Wow.
It would largely be this blue and yellow shell, and
Okay.
it would be actually here pretty close to what was expected as far as the thickness of that shell is concerned. And you find maybe a little bit of a mixture, obviously, in these units. So there might be some blue, there might be some yellow, a combination of both. And then you might also begin to see the introduction of some limestone into that shell unit. And then probably right underneath 240, you'll begin to see some more continuous presence of limestone units in addition to some sand.
So is it possible that the Trinity Edwards formation is going to produce almost as much as Ogallala in that hole?
Based on the presentation of information here, it would, the answer is yes, and possibly more. I think Daryl is looking at in the council there, looking at some other options for the. There may be a little remaining funding available to go ahead and from this point actually develop at least a test well in that aquifer. Right now, those small diameter holes were all subsequently plugged with bentonite after they were logged. But Daryl might have more information on the testing, which might give us more information from here forward.
Right. So yeah, where we are now, we of course we're in a different world. We have to figure out what the suitability of it for drinking water is if we bring it into our municipal water supply. So our next steps are to try to get some type of a well, serviceable well that we could pull some samples from and start getting some volume and quality kind of data and results on. So we've got I think Silas was helpful in this project, and he's working with Jared and some of our other outside engineering to present this to TCEQ and ultimately to construct it as a producing well. So we're not really going for just something we can go down and grab samples and decide what's there. Is that ultimately we want to try to put this together that if based on how promising these results look, we'd want to turn this into a productive well. Now it may be a few years before we can get out there because we don't have a pipeline out there yet. We got no place for the water to go, but we would want to make this case it and set it up to be to the municipal standards, and of course we've got quite a bit of dance around with TCQ to do that. So there'll be some questions to be answered in there. Will they allow us to produce from both zones? Will we have to isolate the Ogallala from the Edwards Trinity? We'll have to get some of those answers as we work through it. But it'll be it won't be an inexpensive process. And so we've had to allocate some funding. We're in the process of having to do a lot of expansion. Wolford is growing explosively right now. And we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on our water supply issues. So we're in the process of evaluating some other wells for purchase. And so right now we're doing some issue of some certificates of obligation to not only to cover this project, but several other projects at the same time. So we're obviously really excited about this. We have a new subdivision that's coming on that's 510 acres and potentially 2,200 lots. They're bringing on some wells with that land, but nobody ever brings enough. So we're going to definitely need to bring this in at some point to augment our existing water supply. But we've also, and I don't want to take up too much time, so y'all start waving me down if I'm running long, but we've investigated, we've got our electrodialysis reversal treatment system, which we're about to double the capacity of it to meet our growth. But we feel like that's a good start on any issues we might have for water quality here. So we've already got the wherewithal to do some treatment. I don't know if you all are familiar, but Seagraves is in the process of testing in place or piloting in place a system called a ceramic ultrafiltration system. That's something that we're looking at as an additional component to our electrodialysis reversal. So it's better at taking out the larger particles and components, your manganese, your sand, iron, those kinds of things. We're having a hard time in our water plant treating some of our water because we've got some stuff coming out of the wells that we're having some problems with. We've done some upgrading with our filtration system, pre-filtration. We want to go take our filtration to a higher level. So we're going to be doing some additional testing on that ceramic ultrafiltration. And we feel like a combination of the two would give us some blending options that would help us out quite a bit. So it's all kind of a part of a bigger picture, but with the amount of water that we're needing, we're really excited about what we've been able to do here. Well, I talked a little bit about acquiring new wells. Most of the wells we're looking at are just wells in the area. One of the other parts of this new debt issue is we've worked with a local company here in Lubbock to look at. They do some well monitoring in the oil field that we feel like could be effective for us in the municipal production side. Well, what we're looking at doing is changing over most of our pumps to variable drive pumps, and then placing some monitoring equipment down in certain types of monitoring equipment that so we can monitor our conductivity, and some other functions, so we know where the optimal production point of those wells are, and we can adjust the VFDs on the pumps themselves to respond to the quality and the quantity of water that we're able to produce, and try to find out where the happy place is for those wells to get into a spot where they produce at best. And so we're about to do, we've got any of the new wells we put together, we want to try to put that type of monitoring equipment on, and then we're going to work our way backwards to go try to do all the old wells. But what we'd like to do on all the wells that we've got actually up and producing is to make that a part of anything we do. We've got SCADA that tells us what we've got once we produce the water. It knows what's in our water towers. It knows what's coming out of the wells, but that's from the surface up. We need from the surface down to tell us what's going on down under the ground, and start working on that. So we're pretty excited about that project, and kind of feel for a municipality in this area, we're going to be breaking some new ground. So I'd like to keep you all updated on how some of those things go. And also would like to mention, need to get it up on our website. I don't know if Jared's got it up yet, but we have our completed water plan for the city up and should have it up on our website. I'll make sure that Jared's got that put together, but that would be available for y'all to look at. And I think with our history of doing these projects together and everything else, that y'all will see how we're trying to incorporate the partnership projects that we've done with y'all into our long-term water plan and have, to show what an important piece of what we're doing in the future, y'all have helped us with. So that's a pretty quick, that may be about 20,000 feet, but hopefully I've hit a lot of the high spots and like I say, Jared's been heavily involved and can answer probably more questions than I can, but it's a promising project and it's nice to have one that we're going to continue to work on in the future. So entertain any questions you've got if you have any of those.
Well, that's great. It looks like there's some promising results there that I don't know if any y'all may have anticipated them, but I'm a little surprised to see those that good of looking logs. That's great. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Daryl, we really appreciate the work you're doing. And,
well, appreciate y'all. And like I say, it's nice to have one that's it looks promising and looks successful. And I think one of the things that Jason and I've talked about is how, kind of our job now, we feel like is to share it with other communities. I've worked with other smaller communities, Ropes and some of those along there, and all of us are going to be looking for new water resources and water treatment and those types of things for these communities to survive. And so just it's really important that we all work together and we try to get this information out there once we do have it.
thanks very much. Anything else? I don't know what, I guess Victoria took over. I don't know what happened for sure, but okay. The next item on the agenda, I think, is item 8, discuss and take possible action on an order calling a general election for district directors in precincts 3 and 4. Jason, Victoria, I'll let either of you update the board where we are on that.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple quick updates. This document calls for the order of the election. The election will take place in precincts 3 and 4. And for our audience, precinct 3 is portions of Castro County and all of Bailey and Palmer County. Precinct 4 is portions of Armstrong, Smith, Potter, and Randall counties. If someone is interested in being on the ballot, they must turn in an application to me at the HPWD office before 5:00 p.m. on August 17th. So that's coming up very fast. In light of COVID and some of the changes that we're receiving for elections and administrations of elections, we are able to receive applications through email now. I would prefer not fax. The millennial in me struggled with that a little bit, but you can hand deliver it, mail it, and email it as well. Just let me know if you're interested in applying, and I'm happy to help you out. All counties which have an election could occur have been notified. So I have, as the election administrator, been working this past month to look at how much it would cost, what that partnership would look like. But I'm pleased to share that if we were to have an election, the county clerk or the election administrators within those counties are very willing to work with us and help administer our election.
So what action do we need to take today, Victoria?
There, in your packet is a copy of the order. And so the board needs to vote to call that order for the election, followed by your signature and Mr. Beecham's signatures, if you vote to approve it.
I so move that we call that election.
I'll second.
Second.
Mr. Seal has moved and Mr. Heffington has seconded the motion to call the election as proposed. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So any other action we need to do on this, Victoria?
No, sir, I'll just get your signature and Mr. Beecham's signature.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I believe we're on item 9, our approval, consider an approval of fiscal year 2021 budget for maintenance and operation of HPWD. Jason, you want to take this one?
Yes, sir. So last month, the board was shown a draft budget for the fiscal year 21. At this time, we have on the main presentation screen from Victoria a history since 2014 of the adopted budgets for High Plains Water District. The 2021 number is that which you're considering today. The budget as presented, and this is in the full packet available to all members in the public online, has a couple of things that have been noted. Also, we have in the last week or so received certified values from all of our central appraisal districts. And looking at that, the budgeted revenue for 21 is about nearly $42,000 less in tax revenue than the 2020 budget. The overall budget is almost $67,000 lower. When you look at the combination of those factors, the new language, as we know today, is no new revenue. So no new revenue tax rate has recently been calculated. And so the good news is that a tax rate lower than the no new revenue rate would support the tax collections that are in the budget for your consideration today. And we would also, besides lowering the tax rate, lower the tax revenue. So there is some reduction in both in this proposed budget. And there is some additional illustration of expenditures. This is just the expense part of the budget, but we do adopt a balanced budget, so the revenue will balance this out. But this is another representation of the expense budget for your information. And if there are questions on some of the categories, they'll be glad to answer those at this time.
Anyone have any questions with regards to the budget as proposed?
We don't break this down any further than just what is shown here, and what I'm bringing up is the fact that I don't think we're transparent enough, that we really don't know how much we spend for specific programs, specific endeavors we do. We just lump it all together, and I feel like that we may not be getting our money's worth, guys. And that's why I cannot support the budget, because it's not transparent enough.
Okay, any other discussions or comments at this time? No. Do we have a motion with regards to the budget?
I make a motion, we approve the budget as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Hopper has seconded the motion to approve the budget as proposed. Any additional discussion at this time? I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hopper?
Aye.
That means you're for the budget, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Heffington?
For.
Mr. Seal?
Against.
And I'm Mr. Tate, and I'm for the budget. Proposed budget passes 3-1. Next item on the budget, or excuse me, next item on the agenda is with regards to the Ag Texas Appraisal Services to develop the cost and water values for 2020. Ag Texas has been doing this for the last few years, and obviously their territory and ours match up very well. And I guess I'd say I'm a big fan of what Ag Texas has been doing for us.
I'll make a motion we approve that proposal.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Seal has seconded the motion to approve the contract with Ag Texas Appraisal Services. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, show by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11 on the agenda is the Army Corps of Engineers study. My thought, unless someone objects, is that perhaps we defer this discussion to our next board meeting. Unless, I think that's a very interesting topic, but it's something that's going to be a little bit time consuming. And at least my suggestion is, unless anyone objects, that we defer that to next month. Anyone have any objection to that?
None.
Okay.
I would have a question on that. I'd ask Jason, is that going to put anything as far as North Plains is concerned if we lay it on the table?
No, sir. This is of no urgency as far as moving to next month.
Well, do you need a motion to lay it on the table, Lynn?
Oh, I don't know that we do. So we can just take no action and put it back on the agenda next month, is what I was thinking. But if you want to make a motion, I'll certainly welcome that.
Oh, that'll be fine, as long as we understand it's going to be on next month's agenda.
Right, I think absolutely, yes, sir. Okay, the next item is the personnel policy.
Yes, sir. I would like to request that we also look at a September meeting to finalize some parts of this. We have been working pretty diligently, and Victoria's led this effort primarily, but we found ourselves working through this morning to try to clarify a few additional things, and that's our recommendation for today.
Anybody have any objection to that?
No, I'd just like for y'all to send us your updated version in time so we could study it a little bit before the next meeting, if you could.
Okay, I think
Yes, absolutely. That's another reason to not try to under this today in light of some of these other issues. Absolutely.
Okay, I guess we do this every year. The 2020 delinquent tax roll from Cochran County. And if I understand it right, Cochran County wants us to approve that. Is that correct, Jason?
It is. I'd like to ask Victoria to just give a quick overview of her discussion with the tax collector, because I think this might very well be the last time this is needed. So.
Okay, Victoria.
Thank you. I spoke with the Cochran County Tax Assessor Collector. This falls very much in line with the authority that the board has already given Jason when it comes to handling some of the delinquent tax roll and properties in which we forfeit. So the document as written right now, they would request our signature, but in the future years, Jason has the authority to handle these, and we are also in compliance with the Texas tax code.
Okay, thank you. Brad, I guess since you represent Cochran County.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We approve that.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Heffington has moved and Mr. Hopper has seconded the motion to approve the delinquent tax roll for Cochran County. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimously. County advisory committees. Anybody have anything changes or anything they need to do with their county advisory committees?
I have
don't
not.
have any.
Did somebody have something? I didn't.
No, Ronnie doesn't.
Okay, Lynn doesn't.
No, Brad doesn't.
I don't. Yeah, I
Okay, then
don't.
we'll go to the next item, executive session. I'm not aware of any reason for an executive session at this time. Is anyone else?
No.
Okay, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, is that Mr. Hopper's move? Do we have a second for the motion to adjourn?
Second,
Mr. Seal has seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Appreciate you guys all participating, and ladies. Hopefully someday we'll have a real meeting where we're all in the same room, but I'm not sure when.
I got one thing to tell Victoria. Is she still on?
Yes, sir.
Say, don't give my wife this mute button because she'll use it all the time on me. So I couldn't talk a while ago because I muted myself.
hey, Brad,
Mm-hmm.
you might want to get one. You might want to get one of the High Plains Water District rain gauges for your next.
Well, I was
photo.
saving money by using the other district's gauges. See, so we didn't have to use ours. Catherine's already offered to give me some next time I'm there. So that started because of me, because I told her I couldn't make a crop on those tapered gauges. So they actually did a test and compared the tippers and the straight gauges and the round ones, and I think this is what they came up with was the most accurate. Yeah, and they did figure out the tapered ones didn't catch as much rain, so wasn't as accurate.
You can put them side by side, and you can get two different answers at the same time.
Yeah, see, I've got a HPD one right beside it, but it doesn't catch as much rain, so I don't take a picture of it. So, but I got one of the old ones.
That's just operator error, Brad. That's operator error.
I love the old ones. I've got it on the fence out there.
No.
Okay, we are adjourned, guys. We'll
Okay, thank you all.
appreciate you all participating. Thank you.
Thank you.